welcome to this week's live weekly warm-up. Potentially again, if it wasn't working or you were here for the stream that wasn't working. But now I think everything's working out. It's always fun every now and then I change a little setting and then everything breaks and I have to fix it. But that's the fun of going live, is we get all the fun technical hiccups involved as well. But I think things are working now. Hopefully you can hear me and see me. If you're just now tuning in, sorry I'm a little bit late. But we're here, we're ready to warm up and have a great week of clarinet playing. So last week, I did something a little bit different and kind of fun, where we took a more or less standard technique exercise, the stepwise scale motion pattern, and sort of changed the form of that exercise and transformed it into a long tone exercise. This week, I want to take a really great long tone exercise, one of my favorite, the Christmas tree long tones, and transform that into a technique exercise. Remember, with all warm-ups, so much more important than the actual notes that you're playing on the instrument is what you're focusing on. So you can take any notes and turn them into a long tone or technique or articulation exercise just by changing what you're focusing on. So I'll just play like a tiny snippet of the Christmas tree long tones so you can hear how that goes. Then I'll talk about how we're going to transform that into a technique exercise. So this is Christmas tree long tones. And if you've seen one of the several videos that I've done on these long tones, then you sort of know what the point of them is. And it's all about, of course, sounding good, really focusing on sound quality, getting a great sound on that first C, and then matching every single note after that to the C. And just like in typical long tone fashion, the rhythm pretty much doesn't matter at all. And it's just about holding those notes until they sound good and you're ready to move on. Now, to transition this or translate this to a technique exercise, what we have to change is make the rhythm matter and shift the focus a little bit more to the fingers. So what I'm going to do is play this really well in rhythm, sort of as eighth notes. Of course, I'm still going to work on sounding really good and matching all of the notes and make them really even. But now the focus has shifted a little bit from just hold the note really long and sound really great on it to still sound really great on it, but do it really in time, like this. And you can hear how that's a little bit challenging because it has lots of leaps. It goes all the way through the chromatic scale, returning to the C, and doing those leaps really quickly can be a bit tricky. Luckily, if you've warmed up with the Christmas tree long tones, then you know exactly what you need to do to sound great on those. So transitioning to a technique exercise should be easy because you can just really focus on getting that same great sound, but now just doing it a bit faster, more strictly in time. Now you'll notice as a technique exercise, that was kind of short. So what we can do is extend it a little bit by also doing the same pattern, but going down, sort of as if we were playing a scale. And that might sound something like this. And you can hear now that's starting to be a good length of an exercise. Of course, I could try doing it faster. I could do it slower if I need to. But doing it with a metronome would also be a fantastic idea because pretty much everything besides long tones should be done with a metronome. So when we transform this into a technique exercise, get out the metronome, do it really, really well in time, and that would be great. One other thing that we can do to sort of be creative with this and mix it up a little bit is to do sort of the opposite rhythm. So you heard I was sort of doing eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and, so the C was always on the downbeat. We could flip that around where we make the new note, the higher note on the downbeat, and then the returning C is on the upbeat. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and I'll go ahead and play what that sounds like. And that makes it a little bit tricky, or at least a little bit different. So your brain has to process it in a different way. And again, just builds these notes stronger into your muscle memory, stronger into that subconscious, so that you can always make these notes sound really good, make all of those transitions work really well too. So that's all I have for today. This is just a fun little exercise, taking the very beloved Christmas tree long tones, mixing them up a little bit and making it a little different focus. And again, I'm just proving the point that you can take any notes that you're playing. It can be a passage from your music. It can be another one of your favorite long tones. You could take an etude, or maybe what would be really fun, I've never actually thought about doing this, but taking something like the Krebs studies, the daily studies that are just a short line of music. And instead of doing those very technical like they're written, do it a little bit more long tone like, or turn it into an articulation exercise. And that's actually what I'll be doing next week, is taking a technique exercise and turning it into an articulation exercise, so you can get an idea for some ways to do that. But if you have any questions about this, be sure to leave a comment with your questions and I'll be sure to answer those. Even if you aren't watching this live, feel free to comment. Thank you so much for hanging out and doing this warm-up. And I'm excited to hear how Christmas tree technique exercise goes for you this week. And I will see you next week on the next live weekly warm-up.